Hello. Today we're going to be talking about starches in real life Orgo. Starches are one of the most essential compounds in history. We use them in our everyday life to give us energy and make sure that we are healthy. They are absolutely essential to our survival. The reason being is that they are just chains of sugars such as amylose that can break apart to give us energy. This is why starches are an essential part of the human diet. This has resulted in humans finding new and interesting ways to cook with starches, as we will demonstrate. Starches, if pure, are found to be semi-crystalline granules and are found in a variety of products, which we will discuss in depth later. As shown in the structure above, the amylose are connected to each other by the oxygen on the alpha 1 carbon which connects to the 4 carbon on the next sugar molecule. However, starches may sometimes form an alpha 1 carbon to a carbon 6 link.
Starches come in a vast number of varieties, each one with its own unique properties. All starches are made up of two major categories of molecules, amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is a long strand with no branching, while amylopectin branches off into multiple strands. The two major ways in which starches vary are in size and amylose to amylopectin ratio. Here we have just a few examples of this variety. However, this list does not even begin to describe the full variety of starches. Just cornstarch itself has many different varieties than the one shown here. These differences can affect the properties of the starches. For example, starches high in amylopectin are waxy, and they swell more and are viscous when gelatinized. And larger starches tend to swell faster at lower temperatures.
Now we are going to shift our focus onto modified starches. Modified starches serve a wide array of purposes and can completely change how the starch interacts with the world around it. Modified starches come from a variety of reactions that are shown in the diagram above. One of the main purposes to modified starches is to aid in digestion. The higher the amylose content within the starch, the slower that digestion will be in the person. For example, by cross-linking the starch with POCl3, the digestibility decreases, meaning it will be able to last longer in the body. But the main reason that for modifying starches, any starch really, at all would be to increase levels of SDS. SDS, while providing a longer, more consistent source of glucose to the body, helps reduce chances of hyperglycemia. Finally, we're going to start talking about extrusion methods. Modified starches are gotten through the process of extrusion. And basically what this means is that you'll take a starch, like any type of grain, like cornstarch, etc., and you'll basically put it in this machine as you'll see in the picture above. And through processes such as esterifications and cross-linkages, they have the chemical baths and such within the process. And then at the end of the process, you retrieve the new material through raw ingredients, and then this raw ingredient is passed through an extruder, which is basically a large rotating screw tightly fitted around a barrel, so that it's basically shaping starches into things that we want in everyday life, such as macaroni, etc., etc. Now we're going to talk about esterification in modified starches. Esterification is one of the main ways to have starch modifications. It is responsible for making some of the best compounds in starches today, such as tartaric acid, which is now used in baking soda, which I'm pretty sure everybody uses. Esterification has a direct link to resistant starches, or RS. One of the main types of RS is SDS, which we discussed in the last section. Its most influence is the glycemic index, or GI, however. Foods such as bread, potatoes, and rice have very high GI content, which is good, but by modifying starches, you could lower the GI content. This sounds counterintuitive, but this definitely helps people with diabetes process sugars in the starch better, and it makes it so that they can have more starches in their diet. This has revolutionized the way people with diabetes could have starches in their diets.
When water and starch are heated to a certain point, irreversible gelatinization occurs. During gelatinization, the water becomes viscous and transparent. What is actually happening is that the crystalline structure of the starch is lost as the intramolecular hydrogen bonds are broken. As these hydrogen bonds break, more water molecules are able to form their own hydrogen bonds with the starch, causing it to swell to many times its original size. This process of gelatinization is utilized extensively in cooking, like for gravy, pasta, rice, and bread.
Most gravies are made from the drippings of meat mixed with butter and flour. The flour acts as a thickening agent as the starch in the flour absorbs liquid. Amylose and amylopectin are the main compounds found in starches. The two compounds are found in different amounts in different items. Amylose pectin is a long sugar chain, while amylopectin is a branch chain starch. Flour contains more amylose than amylopectin. The initial mixture of butter and flour in gravy serve two important purposes. The first purpose is to coat the flour particles evenly in fat. This ensures that the final product is not lumpy. If the final product is lumpy, the flour has gelatinized instead of being coated evenly by liquid or fat. When the starch comes into contact with a liquid, the amylose or amylopectin will begin to expand and absorb water. The flour must be added slowly to the mixture to ensure even coating. If the flour is added too fast, only the outside particles will expand, yielding a lumpy mixture. The second purpose is to cook the protein to eliminate a floury taste in the gravy or sauce. Pasta from the grocery store comes in a plastic bag and it is usually rigid and uncooked. When pasta is cooked, it is placed in boiling water and it goes from rigid to soft. This is due to the absorption of water by the starch molecules in the pasta. It is important to keep in mind that pasta has more amylopectin than amylose. Amylopectin is a sticky starch, while amylose is a not-so-sticky starch. If your pasta sticks together after being cooked, it is the amylopectin at work. Amylose molecules gelatinize at temperatures above 65 degrees Celsius. The amylose is also not as branched as amylopectin, and it acts as an emulsifier. This means that it helps oily sauces stick to the pasta. Since amylopectin gelatinizes at a relatively low temperature, pasta also contains egg to hold the starch molecules in place. If the amylose gels, it will leave the pasta and make it sticky. The ratio of amylose and amylose pectin affects how much the pasta will stick to itself and how much sauce will stick to the pasta. Rice only has about 20% amylose. Since amylose gelatinizes at higher temperatures, it tends to absorb more water than amylopectin. Amylose is also prone to retrogradation. Retrogradation means that the gel can bind to itself once cooled. Retrogradation can be shown in the texture of Chinese takeout rice. Fresh rice is soft and fluffy. Cold rice is dry and hard. When the cold rice is reheated, the gel breaks bonds to other starch molecules and the fluffiness returns. Water must be added prior to reheating so that the starches can reabsorb and become fluffy again. And now to show you what this all looks like in everyday life, let's join Brittany in the kitchen.
Hi, welcome to Brittany's Chem Kitchen. Today I'll be showing you the magic behind how starches work in cooking different foods. First, starches work by absorbing water into their starch grains. The amount of liquid starches can absorb is how concentrated the starches will be and the overall effect of the thickness of the dish or recipe. And today I'll show you the differences behind how starches work in pastas and in jello. Some of you might question what makes pasta go from being hard as a rock to soft and edible, and your answer is starches. When it comes to cooking with starches, there must be a catalyst to the starches to make the product thick. And so today we are going to take pasta and transform it into a nice, soft, delicious texture. So now that you have your pasta, it's time to cook it. So I'm just going to take this pasta and put it in a pot of boiling water. And now all we gotta do is wait, because the starches will now absorb the water from the hot boiling water, which is also the catalyst, and we just gotta wait until we get our final product. Now that the pasta is cooking, the heat will act as a catalyst to jumpstart the reaction, and the starches in the pasta quickly absorb the water to make it increase in size. So now that the pasta has finished cooking, you can easily see that the water has absorbed through the starches to make it thick, like this. Now all you gotta do is put some tomato sauce and dig in. The next type of food we're making is jello. In some extreme starches, like jello, water can be more absorbed and turn liquids into solids. This process is known as gelatinization. Starch gelatinization is the process in where starches and water are subject to heat, causing the starches in the jello to swell. So we just added 2 cups of boiling water to our jello mixture, which was a powder, and so now the heat in the starches are going to cause it to swell, making it increase in size. So now that we fully dissolved the starch in the hot water, we are going to let it cool so that the gelatinization process can fully take over. We're going to put it in the fridge for at least 2 hours so that it can set and it can be a solid. You can see that the starches had absorbed the water and turned it from a liquid to a solid. And this is all due to gelatinization.